And I believe we're live. All right. Hey, everybody. It's Niall Doherty here with Jenny Lachs.
Hi.
And this is Digital Nomads Having Coffee, episode number 5. And we're here at the roof in Las Palmas de Gran Canaria. And what we're going to do before we dive in and start taking questions and talking about digital nomad stuff, and of course you're welcome to leave questions and comments, I'm going to grab the link here so we can kind of share it and get more people on here. So let me do that real quick. And actually, while I'm doing that, let's start off with like a little introduction for you. How did you get started as a digital nomad?
Yeah, that's a fun story. I don't know how much time you have.
I guess like the 1 minute version of what you were doing before.
1 minute version.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. So in my old life, I always say in my old life, not in my former life, in my old life, I was a chemist actually, so a scientist. And I realized after nearly 10 years in the lab that it wasn't really for me to do research anymore, and I decided to go traveling, which I did with my boyfriend, who's also a chemist. And we went on a round the world trip. This is exactly 4 years ago actually, and we went on a round the world trip that should have lasted about a year, but we ran out of money sooner, which we kind of anticipated, so we ended up in Australia, worked there on a working holiday visa for a year, so kind of prolonged the time of staying away. Funnily enough, like running out of money meant we stayed away longer.
Right.
And that's where we found out about digital nomads. So we've read blogs and listened to podcasts and found out about this whole...
2 years ago, 3 years ago?
This was about 3 years ago now.
Okay.
Yeah. So we found out about digital nomadism and working online and all of that, and we knew that that would be a really good way for us to keep on traveling, because we knew we wanted to keep on traveling, but we didn't know how to make it sustainable and lasting longer, because I was already too old to do all these working holiday visas, so we had to find another way. And we did what any reasonable person would do, and we just moved to Chiang Mai and tried to figure it out, which is not necessarily what I recommend to people, but yeah, that's how it started. And I just started working random jobs, anything that I could find. I actually set myself a challenge on my blog. I called it the Digital Nomad Job Challenge.
Oh.
Very creative.
Yeah.
To try any online job that I could find, anything that somebody would pay me to do online.
And here you are 2 years later, going from strength to strength.
Yes.
Dream still alive. Yeah.
Exactly.
Nice.
So I'm just going to quickly take that link that you just sent me.
So I messaged that to
share it
you.
on my page as well.
Cool. And if anybody hasn't seen Digital Nomads Having Coffee before, just to explain a little bit, it's basically just me hanging out with another digital nomad and having a chat. And if you have any questions about becoming a digital nomad, about being a digital nomad, or if you just want to ask us about where we are or what our day-to-day is like, whatever, just leave a comment and we'll get back to you live, or if you're watching this in the replay later, you can always go to Digital Nomads Having Coffee on Facebook, like the page, give it a thumbs up, and drop any questions, comments you have in there, and we'll answer them on the next episode. That's kind of how it works. And it is Digital Nomads Having Coffee because the idea is we sit here and we drink some coffee. But it seems like every guest I have on here, I invite someone on, it's like, by the way, do you drink coffee? And they usually say no. So it doesn't matter.
Sorry.
It's just an excuse.
I wanted to do the fake coffee thing with like a coffee cup full of water, but we wanted to keep it realistic.
Keep it real, keep it authentic. Yeah. So here we are.
Exactly. Okay, so I'm just going to share this now.
Cool.
Now. And I'm going to share it in my group as well. Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
And actually, just to tell a little bit of people, I'm gonna give your group, your community, a bit of a shout out here, and it's called Digital Nomad Girls. So Jenny runs a community to help female digital nomads or aspiring female digital nomads to connect, to learn more, to be more successful, and to get more enjoyment out of the digital nomad lifestyle. So I would highly recommend checking that out. I mean, I was browsing your website there this morning, and there's a whole bunch, like you probably know, I try and produce a lot of content to help digital nomads and people working online as well. And I seen Jenny's content and I was like, I got to share this with my people. It's really good stuff on like the different type of work you can do online, how to find more work online, all that stuff. So it's digitalnomadgirls.com.
Digitalnomadgirls.com.
And you have a very active. Is it a page or a group on Facebook?
I have a Facebook group. There's also
Okay.
a page, but the Facebook group is really engaged.
Okay.
That's the Digital Nomad Girls community.
Right, so if people type in Digital Nomad Girls on Facebook.
They will find the
find
page
that.
and the group, and the community is the group. You
All
will
right.
see.
Okay, cool. So I have a bunch of questions for you.
Yes.
Let's see. Well, to start, actually, I read on, because I didn't know this about you, I just assumed you were from the UK,
Yes.
but you're not.
No, I'm half. I've got dual citizenship. My mum's British, but I grew up in Munich. I was born
Okay.
in Munich and I grew up there, and I lived there for the first 26 years of my life.
Oh, really?
Yes. But I have not such a strong German accent, so many people don't hear it.
Yeah, yeah. But you obviously speak completely fluent German.
Yes.
So
I do.
when you start, I hope so, after 26 years, when you started working online, was translation one of the things you started with?
Yes.
Yeah.
That was actually one of the first jobs I did, and that's also what I recommend to a lot of people to do, because I find like I really liked doing translation. I enjoyed it much more than I thought. And I found that finding jobs doing translation was actually pretty easy. Yeah, I think. So that's fine.
Sun's gone in.
Yeah, because I started translating online, obviously, on Upwork specifically.
Right.
And I think a lot of jobs, it's hard to get noticed on Upwork, but with translation, it's pretty easy, I found.
Oh, okay.
Because it's really easy to stand out from the crowd, because they basically give you the work up front. So usually what people would do is, hey, I need this one page translated. So
Right.
what I did, I would just look at that one page, take the first paragraph, translate it really nicely, and when I applied to a job, I would just say, hey, you should hire me, but first check out how I would do it. And
Right.
that really got people's attention, and I found it pretty easy to get translation jobs that way.
Yeah, I think that's a really important thing when you're applying for jobs online, because if you're a client online, the main thing you're worried about is this person won't deliver.
Yeah.
So if you can actually, because most people applying for jobs online are like, hire me because I can do it, and they're telling them how good they are, but you actually showed them.
Yeah.
And then for a client, it's like, oh, well, I can definitely trust this person because they've already proven that they can do the work. So yeah, if you can ever submit samples of your work like that, and especially a small sample, because if you translated the whole
Doesn't have to
thing,
be. No, exactly.
they'd be like, oh, I don't have to pay her now.
Yeah.
So just a little bit to show that you have what it takes to get the job done.
Yeah, and that worked really, really well for me right from the start. Like translation jobs were pretty easy to get on Upwork.
Can you remember how much you were getting paid for these early jobs when you started?
Not exactly, but I remember the first translation job I got. I was still really underselling myself, because I was like, I want to get the first job, I want to get the review and all of that. So it was the translation of a flyer for like these guys made solar jars. So they're like these, like jam
Solar
jars,
jar?
but they have like a solar panel on top, so you can have like a light inside and it glows. It's really pretty, so you can have it for decorations.
Oh, but you don't put jam in it.
No, you put like pebbles or shells or sand or something.
That's like you open up the fridge and there's like a glowing jar of jam.
No, but
That'd
you
be
could
cool,
probably
actually.
do
Yeah,
that
there's
as
probably a
well.
market there for that.
So anyway, they made these things, and they wanted their flyer translated, which was actually like it didn't take ages to do.
Yeah.
But they said their budget was $150, but I only quoted them $50 because I really wanted to get the job.
Right.
But they were so happy with my work that they actually sent me one of those jars, and they gave me a $50 bonus as well.
Wow.
So that was one that I remember. And then
So wait, you have a solar jar?
I do. I don't travel with it. It's at home.
Yeah. It's one of the downsides of being a digital nomad is you have to leave your solar jar at home.
I know. I miss it every day. Yeah,
Okay.
no. But that was really good. And I think I can't remember really how much I charged per word, to be honest.
But you did mention you were doing SEO articles for $7 a pop.
Yes,
right?
that was writing. That wasn't translation.
Right, but so you were doing anything you could find.
Anything I could find.
All on Upwork?
No, all over the place. To be honest, I only got about half of my work from Upwork.
Okay.
The other half was just me going around telling everybody that I want to work online and that I'm doing anything. And then people go, oh, you want to do this? I'm like, okay, I'll try it. So,
Which worked better, do you think? Upwork or that more using your existing network?
To be honest, it both worked, but I think it's important to do both.
Yeah,
I think it's important not to just focus on Upwork, but to tell everybody, you have to put yourself out there. And I think that's one of the problems that I see, that people say, I really want to be a writer, I want to write. I'm like, does everybody know? Have you told everybody that you're going to be a writer? And they're like, no. I'm like,
how is anyone going to send work?
Yeah.
Yeah, like their next door neighbor could be thinking, I need to hire a writer. do I know any writers? And there's one next door, and you haven't told them.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So with the SEO articles for $7, I was in Chiang Mai, and I met a guy who's a travel blogger, and he had a lot of blogger friends, and some of them have their own kind of media agencies or content agencies, and they asked me, do you want to write SEO articles? And I said, sure. One time I wrote 28 SEO articles about office refurbishments.
Office refurbishments?
Yeah.
Wow.
28. It's pretty exciting.
Did you have to do a lot of research for that?
Not
or
really.
You just kind of like, what do I
No,
know about
not
office
really.
refurbishment?
Like, I always do a little bit of research. I'm a little bit of I'm a scientist, so I do my research beforehand, but it was pretty, it was like kind of winging it. There were only 500 words, so it was
okay.
fine.
So a criticism or a complaint I hear all the time from people who are starting working online is, they'll see a job posting for 500 word article, I'll pay you $7, I'll pay you $9, and they're like, that's ridiculous, I can't put food on the table for that, I can't pay rent of $7. But that's what you started at. So were you kind of frustrated? Were you thinking that like this is way too low pay, or how did you go to that?
No, I wasn't. I actually was very excited about it, that somebody was willing to pay me $7 over the internet to do some work for them. And I totally get that people don't want to write forever for $7. I don't write for $7 anymore either. You know? And pretty early on, I stopped writing for $7. After a couple of months, I was already getting paid much, much more.
Okay.
But I was very happy to start at $7 because you got to start somewhere, and I didn't have any freelance writing experience. I've never done that before. So I was learning about content writing, I was learning about SEO writing, I was learning about, keywords and things like that. So for somebody to pay me for that, I was pretty happy to do it. So I think there's, I read a lot about that as well. People going, I don't want to, I can't put food on the table.
That's the low minimum wage, and that's extortion,
it's
whatever they're saying.
Well, the thing is this, if it takes you 2 hours to write that article, it might be. But if it takes you 20 minutes to write that article, which to be honest, in the end, it was taking me, I could crank those office refurbishment articles out pretty quickly.
How long would it take you?
Yeah, I could write 3 in an hour. So
nice.
Then suddenly your hourly rate is $21 instead of $7, and then it's fine.
And you end up like having such great knowledge of office refurbishment.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Especially in Sydney, Cairns and Brisbane.
Very niche.
Very niche.
I like it, yeah.
Yeah. But no, seriously, like in the beginning, I think the first one took me 2 hours to write because I'd never done it before, and I'm like, what am I doing? Is this good enough?
And that's when a lot of people quit.
Yeah.
Right? Or they think this is never going to work, or I need to look at something different, and they start looking at, they see the ads on, see how this person made $1,000 in one weekend with a t-shirt website, selling t-shirts on the internet, and then I think that's the big problem, is people just keep switching. They don't stick with any one thing long enough to actually make progress.
Yeah. That's
but
true.
You stuck with it. You wrote 28 articles on office refurbishment.
28. I actually wrote loads of different, of those very short SEO articles. That was just a couple I met in Chiang Mai, and I can't remember what was next. Lots of different things. Then I went straight on Upwork and tried to get writing jobs on Upwork, and that didn't work that well for me. I didn't really get any writing jobs on there. I did get something that is kind of in the middle between translation and writing. That was transcription.
Okay.
Yeah, which is also, if you're bilingual, that is a good way to get started. But you have to know how to price yourself, which I didn't, and I ended up working about 40 hours for $40.
Oh wow!
Because I misquoted, and it took me a whole day to transcribe one episode of 20 minutes.
When you say you misquoted, it's just that you didn't know how long it would take you?
I had absolutely no idea. I did a little bit of research, but I don't know who I was. I think I just got it wrong. And I said, 1 minute I'm gonna charge $1 per minute of video material.
Yes,
but
that you actually transcribe.
It takes a long time to transcribe 1 minute.
So what would be a reasonable rate?
Oh God, I would charge at least $5 now
per
for
minute.
1 minute. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, again, if you're much more experienced, you're gonna be much faster.
Yes.
But I wasn't, so it was kind of my fault.
Did you have special software for it?
I think they sent me like some online software that I used. Yeah. Yeah. So again, just trying different things and figuring out what you can and whatnot. And if you can type faster than me, that probably helps as well.
So you basically took full advantage of being bilingual, and you did translation jobs, transcription jobs, the writing stuff. But that was just in English. You were doing writing.
Yeah. I think I did one article in German, but I mainly did writing in English. It's easier for me to write in English because my whole kind of academic career was all in English. So I've written my bachelor's, master's, PhD was all in English. So
okay.
it just feels easier.
So let me throw out some hypotheticals because you've worked with a lot of women who are looking to start this, and I know you've kind of seen people coming from all different backgrounds trying to start an online business. So what do you see that has worked for someone who isn't bilingual? Say they're a native English speaker, but they don't speak any other languages. What type of work would you encourage them to explore?
I think it completely depends on their experience. So I think often what happens, we were just chatting about this beforehand, is people say they want to work online and they completely forget about all their skills that they have offline, you know?
Right.
So the first thing that you need to do is just sit down and make a list of all the jobs you have done, you know? And yes, if all those jobs are just, for example, I worked in Subway sandwiches when I was younger, when I was still a student, you know?
It's the number one restaurant chain in the world, I just realized.
Is it?
Yesterday.
Wow.
I thought McDonald's would be, but no, Subway have more stores.
Yeah, they actually have more stores. So I was a sandwich artist, which was really a lot of fun. I enjoyed that a lot. But obviously that would be hard to take online, you know? But any other experience that you might have, even if it was an internship or any work experience, write down all the skills that you've got. Like, and everybody has some skills. Everybody thinks, oh, but I don't have any skills. I'm like, can you use a computer?
Yeah.
Can you send an email?
Yeah.
Can you do some research?
Social media.
Can you use social media? Do you know how to post something on Facebook?
Yes.
Those are already skills, you know, that not everybody has.
Sure, yeah.
And I think we forget that.
Okay.
That things that come so easy to us might not be easy for other people.
So write down all those skills. That's the first step, and then I'm guessing you're looking at which skills then there's a market for online.
I would also make a second list of what you enjoy most. So that doesn't necessarily have to be I enjoy most posting on Facebook, for example, or Instagram, but just things like that you're passionate about, because maybe you forget that you've been a tennis player for 10 years, you know, you've had this hobby for the last 10, 15 years, you're really good at that, so maybe you can, well, maybe not tennis player is not a great example, but you know, any interest that you might have might also help you find a niche where you can be of help to other people. So let's say you're actually quite good at writing, you know, but there are millions of writers out there, so how do you distinguish yourself? Find what you're passionate about, you know, and that can be like super weird stuff. It doesn't have to be, you know, marketing necessarily.
Well, I think even with the tennis example, if you have like a great knowledge of tennis, maybe you can write articles about tennis, or maybe you can reach out to tennis companies that have an online presence and say, do you need help with your social media? Do you need a virtual assistant? Like, there's so many different things you could do, and because you already speak their language and know their customers, because you are that type of person, you're going to have an edge over other people who want to work for them, who might be applying to work for them.
Absolutely. So that reminds me of the solar jar people.
Yeah.
Where did the translation? When I applied, I mentioned that I had volunteered for Greenpeace for 3 years when I lived in London, which obviously I was a volunteer. I never got paid for that, and that was not my, you know, that was not my industry. I wasn't, you know, that's not my work. But still, it caught their eye because it shows that I'm in alignment with their values.
Yes.
So I think even these little things, how you can stand out from other people, it's worth it to make a list of that and write that down.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
think about that.
Okay, very cool.
Yeah. And then obviously niching down eventually and finding like a speciality instead of offering everything, offering specific things.
And so nowadays, what's the main, like, you still do freelance work, right?
I still do a little bit of freelance work.
Okay.
Not that much anymore, but yes, I still kept my biggest client in Australia, and that's all writing.
Yeah, that's kind of the stage I'm at as well. And I often tell people, like, freelancing is the easiest, fastest way to get started working online, like, as compared to building a software business, building a drop shipping business, affiliate marketing, all that stuff. To me, freelancing is just much easier, much faster to get started, but I always see freelancing as more of a stepping stone.
Yes.
And unless you really love doing it and you're making good money, you probably shouldn't be doing it like 5 years later. You know, you should get to the point where you're earning good money and you don't have to work that many hours anymore, and then you have the freedom to start like a more of a passion-based business or take a few risks on something that you're really excited about.
Yeah. And also something that I'm seeing a lot of my friends starting now is once they've got that experience of working freelance, for example, for an agency, then they start their own agencies, you know, and they find other people to collaborate with and to outsource, and that's how you can scale a freelance business. So.
Yeah.
So I definitely think you should start freelancing, because so many people I meet, they're like, oh, I want to go online, but I'm going to start a blog, and I'm like, that's going to take you years, if anything, and of really, really hard work to start making money from that. Whereas freelancing, you can actually start making money now.
Yeah, like this week you could do it.
Yeah.
We talked about this before we started recording. What was it you just said there that triggered it for me?
Freelancing.
It's gone out of my head. No, we'll come back to it. I haven't had enough coffee, obviously. But I do also want to ask you about the 4-hour work week.
Oh, yes.
Let's talk about the 4-hour work week.
Do your watchers, your viewers, do they know about the 4-hour work week?
The Sounds a little creepy, that.
Yeah, I know.
Stop watching us.
Well, the 4-hour work week is a book that was written, I think, about 10 years ago now. 2007,
yeah, 2007,
right?
I believe, yeah.
By Tim Ferriss. So Tim Ferriss is now a pretty successful kind of like lifestyle business guru kind of dude.
Yeah.
And I read the 4-hour work week, and that was kind of also part of what inspired me to become a digital nomad, and it's kind of turned into this digital nomad Bible in a way.
Yes.
And he talks about how you can basically outsource your whole business or all your work as much as possible, and to end up working only 4 hours a week, hence the name. And I think this is the problem that a lot of people forget, and then you take all that time and the resources that you have, because you manage to make your income mainly passive and you only have to work 4 hours, then you find something that you're passionate about and that you can give back to. But I think a lot of people get stuck on the 4 hours per week and making all this money passive, all this passive income. So yeah, it's a little bit of a controversial.
Yeah, I read a really good quote from Ramit Sethi. Are you familiar with him?
Yes.
I read a really good quote from him the other day, that there's an entire generation of people out there who are striving to make as much money as possible, doing as little work as possible, instead of trying to bring more value to the world. Yeah. And he said, what did he say?
He called them entrepreneurs.
Yeah, entrepreneurs.
Quote,
yeah, and what did he say? They will disappear.
They will disappear.
Yeah. And it's very true. Like these people who, and it's so seductive, because I wasted a year when I first started working for myself trying to do the passive income thing. And if I had just knuckled down and tried to build a real value-adding business, true freelancing would have been the easiest. I would have been way ahead after a year. Instead, I was kind of like, I only have $2,000 or $3,000 left in the bank. And I was under pressure, and then I had no choice but to start freelancing and start at a really low rate. But I mean, it worked out, so it was fine. But yeah, I think a lot of people get caught up in that whole 4-hour work week dream.
Yeah.
Have you gone back and read the book since?
I haven't actually. I should.
Me neither. I read it in 2008, so it's 9 years since I read it. But I mean, I love Tim Ferriss' stuff, like his podcast. I find it's amazing. And I think as he goes on, his stuff is even more and more valuable. What I would say about the 4-hour work week, I love the mindset. I love the kind of the aspirational aspect of it. But for me, it made it sound a lot easier than it actually is.
Yeah, I agree. Like, I think the 4-hour work week, like, it was really groundbreaking, I think, when it came out.
Yeah,
Nobody had ever heard about anything like this. But we get caught up maybe on the wrong parts of the story, and we might actually skip the lessons. So it's not all about not working and just making a lot of money so you can sit at the beach. It's actually about using the time that you have to do something valuable with your time. And that means you don't necessarily have to just work 4 hours a week, because if you can do something valuable with your time, if you get paid for that, that's just fine as well.
Yeah.
I don't know if you know Johannes, who runs the Nomad cruise.
Yes, yeah.
So he shared his story on the cruise, and I really loved it because he mentioned the 4-hour work week as well. And he read it, and his take-home message from the 4-hour work week, instead of trying to create all this crazy passive income, he became a VA in Germany at the time, like a good few years ago, maybe 5, 6, I don't know how many years ago, but there weren't any VAs in Germany at the time.
Because in the 4-hour work week, he talks about outsourcing everything to a VA.
Yeah.
So he was like, if I become a really good VA,
So
nice.
I really loved that. Like, he completely took it from the other side, and it's like, oh, you know what? There's a lot of potential there as well. So that's how he started out, if I remember his story
Very
correctly.
cool.
So I really like that.
Speaking of Nomad Cruise, if you've done one?
Yeah.
Okay. No, I've never done it. So if anybody doesn't know about the Nomad Cruise, what would you say about that?
It's fun. I went last year just before Christmas. It's definitely intense. Last year it was 150 people. This last cruise this year was 250 people.
For how many days?
13.
Oh wow! So 2
Yeah.
weeks with 150 or 200 other
Yeah.
digital nomad type people.
It's really intense. There's not necessarily going to be any Wi-Fi. You have to pay extra for it.
Yeah, a lot
And
extra, right?
A lot extra, and the quality isn't necessarily great. Just because you pay doesn't mean that
Right.
it's going to work.
Which is true of all cruise ships, by the way,
Yes,
not just
absolutely.
Nomad Cruise.
That's true of all cruise ships. We decided not to work, so we took it as a holiday, and they kind of present it as a networking holiday.
Which it is, right?
Yeah, it's really fun. Like I love the Atlantic crossing. Didn't like the day stop so much, but that had nothing to do with Nomad Cruise. That's just I'm not really a cruiser at heart, I guess.
Yeah, I'm not big on cruising myself. I've done 3.
Yeah.
And the first ever cruise I did was from Dubai to Mumbai.
Oh, cool.
And I did it on my own because I was doing my round the world no flying thing. And I realized pretty quickly that most cruise ships, it's just old people and honeymooners, right? So I didn't really have anyone to hang out with. And then on the first day they made an announcement and they said, could all our single cruisers come to deck 4 for a get together? And I was like, hey, I'm going to meet some other single cruisers. And it was literally me and 2 women in their 80s that showed up. It was like Mavis and Betty were there.
Nice.
And we ended up going and having dinner together. It was a magical evening.
I'm sure it was lovely.
They were nice, but not quite what I was hoping for when they said
Yeah.
all our single cruisers. But yeah, I think that if you want to do a cruise, Nomad
Do it with
Cruises.
Nomad Cruise.
Yeah, because if you're with a bunch of cool people,
Yeah.
then it's otherwise like why would you go on a cruise ship?
Well,
You're better off
there's-
going to
there's not
like
much
a
to do
beach.
with. Exactly, there's really not that much to do. But if you have a bunch of friends, and obviously there are talks and workshops and all that,
Yes.
so it helps you pass the time. And it was fun. Like it was good fun.
When you say it was intense, is that just because it's
The amount of people, I thought.
right, like
Because
kind of exhausting?
I mean, I'm super extroverted, but even I just kind of it was the amount of people, and also on a cruise ship, there's not much space to hide. You know, you're
Yeah.
surrounded because it's a very confined space, and you're floating on the ocean. So there are
Right.
only so many places you can go, and we were on a particularly small cruise ship as well. So I think that didn't help.
You went from where to where?
We went from here,
Uh-huh.
Las Palmas, over to the Dominican Republic.
Okay. I think the latest. When did you do it? Last year?
Last year, December.
I think the latest one that just left 3-4 weeks ago.
Yeah.
That went from here to Panama. I
I'm
believe.
super jealous because I love Panama.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was pretty nice. Let's see. Oh, we have a watcher, Jane Lachs.
That's my mum. Hello.
Hey, Jenny's mom.
Hi, mommy.
Um,
I think we have other watchers though. I saw them.
we
yeah.
do. We have like
Yeah.
15 people. Some popping in and out. Okay, let's. How much time do we have? It doesn't say there, does it? I think we're up to about half an hour.
Yeah.
A few of the things I want to ask you about. So, I had a look through the Digital Nomads Around the World Facebook group. Really good Facebook group if you're looking for a digital nomad community. And I found a question here from a lady named Pamela Berendez, I believe you pronounce her name. And she's looking for recommendations. So she said, hey nomads, I'm looking for nice camps or retreats where like-minded people connect and exchange ideas, where I get help to work on my business ideas, some yoga, maybe kite surfing or surfing and having fun. Do you have any recommendations for me? So I saw this and I thought, this is a perfect question to ask you, Jenny, because, well, I guess this leads into your community, Digital Nomad Girls, and you do retreats. But I think a good way to get into this is tell me how that started, Digital Nomad Girls.
Ooh. Okay. Yeah. Digital Nomad Girls. I started it just over 2 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
I was at the time, so we had just moved to Chiang Mai. I started doing my SEO writing and whatnot, and then we ended up in Koh Phangan on one of the Thai islands.
Okay.
And Chiang Mai is like a super digital nomad hotspot. There are so many people to hang out there. On Koh Phangan, it was not like that at all. At the time, there was like one co-working space and there was nobody there. So it was pretty lonely, and I was starting to miss the people I'd met in Chiang Mai. Oh, you know, like just meeting a lot of people.
Yeah.
But also what I'd noticed in Chiang Mai and in Koh Phangan and online as well, for example, at the co-working spaces, it was me and my friend Marta, and we were the only girls there in the co-working space, usually. There might have been one other girl once in a while, but that was it. Everybody else was guys.
All dudes.
So I noticed that, because when you're traveling, when I was backpacking, it wasn't like that. It was pretty mixed.
Yeah.
So I was then wondering, okay, but if girls love traveling as much as guys, why are they not digital nomads, or where are they? Like, even at the
Yes.
meetups, like, not that many girls showed up, and I was like, where are they? Is there anybody else out there? And I love Facebook groups. I love them. I'm in like hundreds of Facebook groups. I use them for everything, for research, to meet people. And I looked for one for girls, and I couldn't find one. So I decided to start my own. And like I said, at the time I was on Kopanjan, so I really just wanted to connect with other people who were like me.
Yeah.
And ask questions. And it was females only because I wanted to meet girls and, have girls chats and things like that. And we pretty early on started doing meetups. So when I was back in Chiang Mai, we did our first meetup, and a whole bunch of girls came who were hanging out in Chiang Mai. It was really lovely.
And you do meetups here regularly too,
yeah,
don't you?
I've done a few here. Probably going to do one maybe next week as well.
And when did you do the first retreat?
The first retreat was about 1 year after I started the group.
Okay.
So really early on, we were, like I said, pretty early on we started with the meetups, because it's awesome to meet online, and it's great to meet so many girls from all around the world. And I added the girls who had met in Chiang Mai and had met online, and they added their friends, so it kind of really grew organically.
Yeah.
But people still want to meet in real life, right?
Of course,
so
yeah, absolutely.
The meetups were fun, but they're just an evening or maybe a day hanging out. And then people were like, hey, what if we met up and, do one of those workation things that people were talking a lot about at the time. And I'm like, oh, okay, maybe I can organize that. Why
That's going to be
not?
scary, right? Like you have to organize a real retreat.
Yeah, so at first I'm like, oh yeah, maybe we just like meet up for a holiday. But it immediately came clear, like, if I want to do this, I have to do it properly, So, I just kind of decided, okay, let's do this, and looked for a space to go. Found one in Spain, so it's in mainland Spain. Sun & Co. That's a co-living space in the Costa Blanca.
That's in the south, is it?
It's like 1.5 hours south of Valencia, so kind of in the middle, actually, on the Mediterranean coast. And organized it with the guys. They were super nice. And
when you say the guys, you mean?
Sun & Co, the people who work
there.
Right. And then kind of just posted in my Facebook group saying, hey, anybody want to come and hang out? And they did. So
excellent.
Yeah. But I kind of did the same approach as I did with my freelancing career, as in kind of like starting out small. Like I didn't really know what to expect, so I was like, okay, maybe like 6 girls will come, and in the end, like we were 14. So
really,
that was really nice.
And so now you've done a few of these retreats.
I've done 3 now.
Oh, cool. So if there's any digital nomad ladies out there and they're curious about this, what could they expect at one of these retreats? What would they get out of it?
Well, that completely depends on who you are and at which stage you are. So the retreats that I've done so far, they were all kind of open to everybody on any stage. So we've had a mix of experienced digital nomad girls, women who've been doing it for years, who didn't even know what a digital nomad was before maybe they found the group or, read an article or something. And then girls who still have jobs and they're about to quit, or they want to quit, or they want to find out more about this. So it's really mixed. In the future, going forward, I'll probably make them a bit more specific, so but it's also really lovely to have the mixed retreats, because you learn a lot from each other on different stages. So even the experienced ladies will learn a lot from the girls starting out, because they're coming from different industries and so on. So it's really, really lovely. Program wise, what we do is there will definitely be time for working, because like I said, a lot of the girls most of the girls already work online, so there will be time for that. But we do mastermind sessions, so really focused sessions where we do brainstorming and help people with their projects and their businesses and all that. And then we do skill shares as well. So I believe that every girl who comes to these retreats has something to share. They don't have to, but they're all invited to share their skills. So we've done loads of different topics. We've done skill shares on, so at the last one we did about branding archetypes and Facebook advertising, Google advertising, sales emails, like lots of different stuff. We've done workshops on negotiation and growing your email list and all sorts of different stuff.
Very cool,
really broad. Well, not broad, but really like versatile. And then we also do like a big goal setting session at the end, where people kind of plan ahead the next steps for the next 3 and 6 months. So that was really popular this time, and I'm quite excited about that kind of thing as well.
Do you have a mailing list people could sign up to if they want to keep in touch and know when the next one's happening?
You can find it on my website, Digital Nomad Girls, or I can drop you a link later.
Yeah, well, I'll put links below the video after as well, but digitalnomadgirls.com. So if you go there, you can sign up for the mailing list. And do you already have another one planned?
No, I'm still in the process of figuring out where to do the next one. So I'm going to start a few rounds of surveys soon, where people can tell me where they want to go. So if you are interested and want to go and you have some ideas where, you can also let me know. We've got a waiting list which has like 3 questions: name, email, and where do you want to go. So it's pretty easy.
Okay. Why Well, you said you started this because you were wondering where are all the female digital nomads. Were they just hiding, or are there not as many as men?
I think to know if there's not as many, it's almost impossible because there aren't really any official stats on digital nomads and their kind of gender distribution yet.
Right.
I think they are there. They were just quieter often. I think it's easy to get drowned out in the online space sometimes. Especially there are quite a lot of big personalities I find in the digital nomad world, and women in general, and obviously I have to generalize, but we tend to kind of be quieter and stay in the background a little bit more. So by creating a space that was just for women, it kind of opened them up to really put themselves out there and ask the questions, and maybe be a little bit like ask the questions that they might not be comfortable asking in other spaces, and they don't even have to be women specific questions. Obviously there is a lot of stuff that is very women specific, relating to health, safety, security, all of those things.
Sure.
Family, big topic. Digital nomads, do you want to have kids? How do you do that? You know, obviously that is not only for women, but we tend to talk about it.
Sure. Yeah.
So yes, I think they were there, and they are obviously in all the other mixed groups as well, but it's like having that space that is girls only kind of allowed us to maybe come out of our shells.
Yeah. And don't you have an article on your site with like profiling, maybe it's a bunch of different articles profiling different digital nomad women?
Yes.
And like you can see examples of the type of different work they do and all that kind of stuff, right?
It's actually, it was supposed to be one big blog post, but WordPress kind of put an end to my plans because the blog post ended up being like, I can't remember, but like 20,000 words or something ridiculous. So I had to split it up. It's a 3-part blog post where I interviewed 55 girls actually.
Wow.
And they all have different online jobs. Okay. So I found them all inside my community. I put
all
a big
55
post.
have different?
They all have different jobs.
Wow.
They're all completely different online jobs. So I wanted to show that there are so many different ways to do this. You don't have to be a web developer. You don't have to be a blogger. You don't have to be a dropshipper.
You don't have to be like super techie.
If you want to. You don't have to be super techie.
Yeah.
So I put a post in my group and said, hey, what are your jobs? Like, I'm looking for unique jobs. And they all commented. So I picked out the ones that I wanted to interview. And did super short interviews with the girls, like only 3 questions each. But you can contact them as well if you want to find out more about what they do. So it's really very versatile. We even have like a violin teacher in there. An online violin teacher. She teaches via Skype.
Really? Wow. That's like, the more I hear about all these different ways of making money online, and I come across new ones all the time, it's like, why aren't more people doing this? It's like there's so many opportunities there, and meanwhile there's tons of people in the developed world, like well-educated people, who feel like they're stuck in jobs that they're not enjoying, and I just kind of want to shake them. Like, but there's so many opportunities. Not that it's easy necessarily, but I think it's easier than staying stuck and frustrated in like a crappy office job that you don't like.
And I think that's what I wanted to do with that post, is just to show that there are just so many options. And because you can't, I think what's really important always is if you see, you know, you might read that article how this person made $10,000 in one weekend by drop shipping or whatever. You know, you can't start comparing yourself to that. And if you don't have anything in common with that person, it's very hard to imagine yourself living that same lifestyle. So for me, it's really important showing people who you can relate to. So in that case, for me as a woman, it's much easier to relate to another woman who might, you know, live the same lifestyle or do a job that I've never heard of. So that's why I wanted to put that out and show people what there's out there. But I also think we're going to reach very soon some kind of like a tipping point where really the floodgates are going to open and more people are going to do this. Like, because there are just more and more examples of people doing it, and people, where maybe 5 years ago it was like some crazy person who you knew who traveled with a laptop, you know, this guy. Now there are hundreds of crazy guys with their laptops. So I think people are going to see, okay, maybe it's not as scary as I think. Maybe I can still make a good living. Maybe I can still have my career, you know. Maybe people like their jobs. They don't even have to hate them, but they want to travel more, you know. Yeah,
and it's becoming that in more and more types of jobs are being brought more online, and you can do a variation of them online. So it's not like you have to start something completely new. Quite often you can just keep doing what you're doing, or a little bit different, but now you're working for yourself from anywhere in the world. And you can still use your online skill, your not your online skills, but your
experience or your academic background. For example, my boyfriend Simon, he is also a chemist, but didn't want to do research anymore. He wanted to travel, and he does online editing, so science editing, just solely for science, chemistry, specifically organic chemistry. So he does that.
So freelance, he does that kind of work.
Yeah, and he works for agencies, and they send him work, and he does it.
And he can be here, or he can be in Thailand.
Well, right now he's at a cafe. He likes working at a cafe. So.
Oh, does he? Which cafe does he like here?
Cafe Regina.
Yeah, I think that's the number one digital nomad cafe, I think.
Yeah.
Here. Maybe we should do an episode there or something.
Oh yeah, that
would it be
fun.
too noisy? Do you think? Would that be?
Depends on what time you go, I guess.
Probably need a better microphone.
Yeah, maybe.
Weak little microphone here.
That could be fun.
Yeah, I'd like to do different spots. Anyway, let's do one more question. Cool. What do I want to ask you? I had a bunch of stuff written down here. Someone asked about being a virtual assistant, and what was the other one? Yeah, let's get into this one. This is from Kelsey Miller, who posted it in Digital Nomads Around the World Facebook group as well. And she said, "Hello, I need some guidance. I don't have a degree, so I can't teach English online, and have no clue how to become a digital nomad. It all just sounds complicated. Tips, please." So there's two things I really want to put to you there. One is, she's saying, I don't have a degree, so I can't teach English online, which to me is a kind of a crazy sentence.
Yeah. We were reading these questions beforehand, and we were like, but you can, right?
Yeah.
Like, what? So yeah, I think, the first part is she doesn't have a degree, so she can't teach English online. Okay, so the degree thing, I think that completely doesn't matter depending on your experience. So if I don't know how old Kelsey is, for example, but she might already have years of work experience, which she doesn't mention in this post, because people tend to focus only on online skills they might already have, which maybe they don't.
Yeah.
Or some kind of, like, the first thing that they find, like, because somebody else is an English teacher, they need to be an English teacher, you know?
Right.
But first of all, yes, I think you can actually be an English teacher if you don't have a degree.
Oh yeah, I give examples of plenty of those. I interviewed a guy who teaches German online on italki.com. He charges €22 an hour. Tim is his name, and he doesn't have any formal teaching qualifications. He's just fluent in English and German, and he teaches German, so you can absolutely do that.
I know a lot of people who teach English online.
Yeah.
There are actually a lot of agencies that specifically focus on certain countries, like some just for China, some for Korea, whatever. And you don't need a degree. You need to be a fluent English speaker. Most of them you actually need to be native. Not everywhere actually. You don't necessarily, but usually you have to be native. And I think that's also a really great way to get started. I know a girl who did that in Chiang Mai. She lost her job in Chiang Mai, which was like an actual brick and mortar job. No, she was working for a charity there, but lost that job, and she just started teaching English online. So she could stay there. You know, at first she was like, "Oh my god, I'm gonna have to go home." Nope. Within a week she was teaching online. So
you don't have to have formal qualifications, because ultimately what it comes down to is providing value.
Yeah.
So if I often think of I have a degree in IT and multimedia, and the year I graduated, there was a bunch of people graduating with me. And, part of our studies, part of our university course was, how to build websites, that sort of stuff. But there was a bunch of people graduating with me that I wouldn't trust to build a website. So just because they had a degree, that didn't mean they were qualified. There's other people who'd been, who could spend 2 months learning how to build a website and be really into it, and they could do a better job. So it's more about, can you provide value? Can you actually teach somebody English, or can you quickly learn how to do that? And if you can, then why not do it? You don't have to have some piece of paper that says you put in the time.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with that. I mean, I met a lot of people over my years in science who I would not trust to do a lot of things, Just, I think and also what is even more important, I think maybe what we forget is, obviously it depends on what kind of job you go after. So if you're going, for example, for a completely remote job, where you are a remote employee for a company, because that is also a way to do it. You don't even have to go freelance. You can just find a job that you can do from anywhere.
And for many people, that is actually a better option.
And
remote work.
the easiest option.
Yeah, because you get a lot of the benefits of being an employee, but you still have a lot more freedom.
Yeah. So if you want to do that, in that case, I think probably people will look more at your background and your education.
Yes.
But as a freelancer, I can't remember anybody ever asking me about my degree. They only care if you can do the job and if you can do it well and if you can do it on time, you know.
But sometimes they don't even care about that. Like seriously, I can't tell you how many times over the years someone has sent me an email saying, Niall, I love your blog. And I don't write about web design, but people would say, I love your blog. I know you build websites. Can you build me a website? Which to me is the equivalent of, I don't know, I'm playing basketball someday and this guy plays really well and I hear he's a plumber. And I'm saying, I really love the way you shoot 3-pointers. Can you come and fix my sink? Right? That's people want to work with people they like, right? And people they trust. So you don't even have to be, I mean, you should be very good at what you do, but don't let that hold you back. Like if you're still learning, oftentimes people would rather work with someone they actually enjoy working with, even if they're not the best person they can get.
Because you're also never going to be the best writer, ever. I can write for another 100 years and I'm never going to be the best writer, you know, but that's fine. But people don't need the best writer to write a blog post about, I just wrote a blog post about standing desks, for example, in education. But, you know, I don't need to be the best writer to write that. I just need to do a good job and, you know, be nice to work with. So I wanted to say something to what you said and I kind of forgot it, but maybe it will come to me again.
But was there a second thing you wanted to say about this Kelsey Miller comment?
Yes, actually, like what you just said about the person contacting you and saying, hey, can you build me a website because he likes your writing.
And they've never seen any of my websites. Really.
Exactly. But this has happened to me as well. And I had literally never built a website before, but I put a blog up, so I had to learn a little bit of WordPress and I had to learn a little bit of the Divi theme that I use. So
I use that too. Shout out to Divi.
Yay, I love Divi. But people literally contacting me saying, hey, your website looks cool, can you make me a website? That was one of the jobs that I did in my Digital Nomad Challenge, you know, was helping people, not even as necessarily web designer, but there was a woman and she was building websites with Divi and she needed help keeping them updated, maintaining them, adding content and so on, you know, and they pay you quite well for that. And also through the blog, people did see that I can write. So I was writing about trying to become a digital nomad, you know, all of this stuff. But a guy contacted me and say, hey, I really like your writing. I write about WordPress mainly, and he needs ghostwriters to write for him, and he hired me and he paid well. Like I got at least $70 if not $80 per article for that, you know, and that was straight after the $7 SEO articles.
Really?
Yeah.
So you went from 7 to like 70.
Yes, because I was writing on my blog and I was just writing kind of in my voice. It's not a big blog, nothing, you know, but he came across it. So I think to answer that question, if you have absolutely no idea where to start, it doesn't matter, just start somewhere. Because people hold themselves back so much by trying to find the perfect way for them, the perfect hourly rate and the perfect client, that they will never get started. You know, like for me, that office writing job, that wasn't perfect. None of that was perfect, you know. Even the translation jobs that I did weren't perfect. I translated a whole book about magicians. That,
really?
You know, it wasn't as interesting as it sounds. But you know, it doesn't have to be perfect. You just need to start somewhere, because if you start somewhere, you will figure out what you enjoy and what you don't enjoy.
Yes.
Maybe you will figure out, I love working with clients, I love helping them, and I do have skills that they actually need. Because for example, I always tell people who are super organized, and a lot of those people would be perfect to be VAs, right?
Virtual assistants.
Virtual assistants. I'm not organized. My business is chaos. Absolute chaos. Like my boyfriend has to like sometimes go in and just sort out my drive because it drives him insane. You know, like it's absolute chaos. And just because you take it for granted that you're super organized and you can help people keep their inbox tidy and all of that, just because that's easy for you doesn't mean it's easy for everybody. So all those little skills, you need to figure those out, and the best way to figure them out is by doing something.
Yeah, I think just doing something, and I also believe like a community and hanging around with other people kind of makes you realize, oh, I'm good at this, or you know, you kind of see.
Or you can make money with this. Sometimes you don't even know what you can make money with. If you're, for example, good at designing like little graphics for Facebook, you know, people pay you for that.
Oh, absolutely,
you know, stuff like that. So definitely community, talk to people, because if you're still at home and you're talking, maybe you're unhappy with your job, you want to try this digital nomad thing. If you don't know anybody who's done this or even knows what a digital nomad is, how can they support you in that dream, you know? And it was the same for me when I wanted to quit science. Like, I talk to my friends, but they're all scientists. They're never going to say to me, yes, this is a great idea, leave science and start something. I don't know what.
Yeah.
But if you start surrounding yourself by people who have already made that step, they just need to be one step ahead of you, or not even. They just need to understand what you're talking about. So as soon as you stop having to justify your own dreams, I think that's when you can start making progress, you know. So.
Like that. As soon as you stop having to justify your own dreams, that's when you can start making progress. That's good.
You can quote me.
Yeah, I like that. Tweet that.
Tweet that.
One thing I want to say as well about, like, you know, starting off basically just trying anything. I feel a lot of people want to, again, they're looking for that perfect solution. They're looking for the perfect type of work they can do online. And oftentimes they're looking for work that they love, like right out of the gate. And I think back on freelance web design, which is what I've done. That's how I've earned most of my money the last 7 years since I started doing this. And I don't love freelance web design. I don't love building websites, but I like it. So it's important that you don't hate it, right? But what I love is the freedom that it gives me. So, you know, if you're writing articles for $9 an hour, yeah, it might not be that much fun, but if you can do that for, you know, 3 or 4 hours a day and increase your rate a little bit over time, and then, hey, I can go live in Thailand or Southeast Asia or Central America or Eastern Europe and all these cool places and meet all these cool people and have all these great experiences. Like, that's, if it gives you that freedom, well, then you start enjoying the work a lot more.
Yeah.
Right? It's
absolutely.
Suddenly you're not thinking, ugh, another article about office furniture, office refurbishment.
Office refurbishments.
Right.
Yeah.
Then you're thinking, oh, great, another batch of articles that let me keep living this lifestyle and having this much freedom.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. So my friend actually wrote a guest post for me exactly about this topic last week. So if you want to read that, we can post the link maybe as well.
What's the name of the
it was called Money Isn't Everything, Why Do You Want to Be a Digital Nomad?
Okay,
so
cool.
I think her perspective is really interesting because she was traveling for a long time, you know, completely offline. Just saving money, traveling, working, saving money, traveling, that kind of thing. And then she started a blog, which is very, very successful, but it's changed her travel experience a lot. So she really misses those old days where she was just traveling and doing her thing. And I think people forget that, why do you want to be a digital nomad? You know,
yes.
And not always it's traveling. Sometimes it's just more freedom, more flexibility, and that's cool.
Yeah.
But if it's traveling, then I think people also forget like how much money they need to travel. Just because you have like a 6-figure job at home that you hate, that doesn't mean that you immediately have to replace those 6 figures in order to be a successful digital nomad. You know, you're successful once you're living the life that you want to. So I think, you know, figure out how much you need. If you want to go to Central America, you might be fine with $1,000 a month to start with. I'm not saying everybody should earn $1,000 a month and not more. Of course not. You're going to need stuff like travel insurance, and you want to start saving for the future and all of those things, yes.
Sure, yeah.
But to start with, just start somewhere, you know, and you can always build on that.
I think a lot of people are scared of, like, they feel like they're taking a big step back because, I'm earning $3,000 a month plus benefits at my job, and I need to be earning at least that much or double that before, you know, I would feel comfortable, you know, working for myself.
Yeah.
And that to me is like, well, then it's never going to happen.
Yeah. And I also think, who was this? Who wrote an article about that? Was it Noah Kagan? He did a video about exactly this, I think.
Yeah.
You know, the Zumo guy?
Yes, yeah.
He did a video about this where he shows how much he earned, or like predictions, if he had stayed in his job, how much he would have earned, and with him starting his business. And for the first 8 years or something, he would have always earned more if he had stayed in his job.
Yeah.
You know, but then, obviously, like, he's doing super well now. So I think you kind of have to keep the long-term thing in mind as well. Like right now, I'm earning less than any of my chemistry friends.
Yeah.
You know, but that's fine because I don't have to stay in London in an ice-cold lab and do research where I can sit on a roof terrace and chat to you.
Enjoy the sun.
So it's kind of priorities.
Yeah, and if you look up the list of the richest people in the world, none of them are employees. They're all entrepreneurs. So someday we'll be among them.
Exactly.
We'll be on that list.
And even if we're not, we're still going to be happier than if we had stayed.
No, Jenny, we're going to be on that list.
We're going to be on the list. Right on top.
While working only 4 hours a week.
And the 1 million richest people in the world, maybe.
Well, I've talked with my cousin about this. Like, when you look at the worldwide perspective, like, we are in the top 5% or something. It's crazy.
Definitely.
And it's so easy to lose sight of that because there's always someone with a bigger house or a car or well, a house or a car, because I don't have either of those things. So there's always like another level, but when you can just, you know, step back and appreciate that, like how privileged we are that we get to do this, and yet there's so many people who are terrified because we get into this comfort zone and we want to have all the comforts
and comparing, like keeping up with the Joneses, right? And I think that's you can get that in your personal life, where you compare yourself and, okay, if this person has this car, then I need to have that car as well. You can get that in your business though, when you see this person's doing this course and this cool thing and this cool and an online summit, I want to do all those things as well. Or
they have a selfie in Bali, I don't have a selfie in Bali.
Exactly.
I need to go there.
Or they just met Gary Vee, or I don't know what, you know, like
they've
all
been to
these
more
things.
countries than me.
Exactly. And then you get in travel as well. They've been to more countries. They've, like, when I watched your video earlier, I was like, man, this guy's done so many things. I want to do that too. And I'm like, oh God, it's happening. Like, again, like the shiny object syndrome, just now in travel.
When you look at that video, it's a video I put out last week called, what did I call it? 7 years as a digital nomad. And it's kind of like a highlight reel of my last 7 years. But that's exactly what it is. It's a 5-minute video packing in all the highlights from 7 years. But if I made a video of like my average day, there'd be a lot of just sitting around in front of the computer, going for a walk, you know, nothing super exciting.
Yeah.
But at the same time, that's what I like. I'm content doing that.
Yeah.
And you need to be, like, if you're constantly thinking, oh no, I need to do the next cool thing, or I need to have the next cool thing, then you're in trouble. You
need to be happy with what you do every day, and then like enjoy the things that you do once in a while. Like it's more important what you do every day.
Yeah, you have to enjoy that process. Yeah, you can't always be chasing the highlights, right?
Yeah. That's true.
Should we wrap it up there?
Yes. Maybe. Is there another question?
You want to do another one?
Oh, well, if you have one, let's do
it. Yeah. If you're good on time.
I don't mind.
Why not? We're breaking new ground here. We're going deep in this episode. Okay, here's one from. Actually, this will be kind of similar, but let's tackle it anyway. This is from Jessica Ryan. How would you pronounce this place she's from?
Ooh, okay.
Quikik Tarjuak. Quikik Tarjuak.
Yeah.
It sounds like a place in, I don't know, Nairobi, but it's in Canada.
It's Canada.
Crazy Canadians with their strange place names.
I love that.
And then Jessica has such a normal name. Jessica Ryan.
Jessica Ryan. From Quikik Tarjuak.
Yes. So Jessica writes, I'm currently in the research stage to move into a digital nomad lifestyle as a freelance virtual assistant. Any advice or personal experience is much appreciated, as I love information.
She loves information. I love that. That actually, before I answer that question, or before we can talk about that, I really want to say something. Well, no, maybe let's just talk about it.
No, go on.
Come into it. But I think what she says is she wants some advice, a personal experience, and she loves information. And I think those things are so important. So she's willing to learn. Okay. And she's willing to talk to other people to find out how they did it. Yeah, and I think those things are so important. Like, people forget that you have to, it's not so easy to be a digital nomad. It's not just like putting up a website and suddenly you start making $10,000s, But you have to put a lot of hard work in. You have to learn new skills all the time, because if you don't have them, you need to learn them. I didn't know about SEO. I didn't even know what SEO meant when I was starting to write SEO articles. So, always learning, and I think that's really cool that she says that. And do your research.
That is one of the first things anyone should do. Like, if you want to become, say, a freelance graphic designer, can you go find some freelance graphic designers and find interviews with them, or blog posts they've written, Q&As, anything like that? Or can you reach out to them and ask them directly, hey, like, what would you recommend, or what resources were helpful to you? Like, go to the people who are already doing what you want to do. Yeah. And they're going to give you good advice, because they've been through it. And don't just ask one person, ask a few, and then see where the overlap is and what most people seem to be recommending.
I totally agree with that, but I also want to add something. Google search first.
Google search for, so say what would you recommend, Jessica? Google search.
I think the problem is that people often skip that step of doing their own research, and they ask people the questions, and instead of being able to ask them like really useful questions, you might end up asking only the super superficial stuff that you might have found in a Google search as well. So I would just like, how to become a virtual assistant. I mean, it sounds silly.
No, you're right.
That's literally what I would do. And then also Facebook groups.
Yep.
Number one for me, Facebook groups.
And so when you go to a Facebook group, are you searching? How do you?
That's exactly.
Okay.
And especially as somebody who runs a Facebook group, please use the search function in the Facebook group. It's not a great search function at all, but it does show up some stuff. So, and they are improving the search function at the moment.
I actually think it has gotten better.
It has gotten much better, and you can like filter a little bit and things like that and sort now.
Yeah.
So search in there, because like if you're in the Digital Nomads Around the World group has like tens of thousands of people in there.
Yeah.
You know? Just search, because somebody will have asked a question, and you might find people who say, hey, I am a virtual assistant. Maybe you can reach out to them, ask them more specific questions, but also find those specific groups, because you know, we have all the general digital nomad groups, but then there are groups for just virtual assistants, you know.
Yes.
So I mean, my friend Hannah, for example, she has a group. She teaches people how to become a virtual assistant. That's how she became a digital nomad. And I actually know quite a few girls who do that, and also teach other people how to do it. So there are lots of resources out there. And I think being a virtual assistant is a great idea. We were talking about this a couple of days ago about niching down maybe, and it's not necessary. Like, for example, okay, she's from Canada, so that's a little bit different because it's still an English-speaking market. But you could focus on just one industry, you know, like maybe, for example, lawyers need virtual assistants, you know?
Yeah.
Something like that. So just kind of try to niche it down a little bit, or find out all the skills that you have and how can you package them together, right? Because if you're good at writing, you're good at social media, you're good at web design, maybe you can create, or you can be like somebody who supports other people who have a WordPress website, you know?
Yeah.
Or web designers who need people to maintain that stuff. So I think just niche it down a little bit instead of offering everything.
Yeah, and I would say as well, when you're reaching out to someone, I mean, I'll definitely do that search first, and if you find somebody that you want to reach out and ask a question to, make sure you do read listen to the interviews they've done and read the interviews that they've done first. But then I think when you have a question to ask them, you want to make it so, like, ask the type of question that's going to be valuable for you to get an answer to, but it's pretty easy for them to answer.
Yeah.
Because sometimes people email me with like a big wall of text and all these questions, and sometimes I'm like, well, I'm not going to answer all that, or if I do, it'll be short, you know, because it's kind of like the equivalent of somebody cornering you at a party and like not letting you go until you answer all their questions, and like you don't want to be around that person. So you know, don't be that type of person online either, who's just like dumping all your questions on somebody and they look at it and just like, ugh.
Yeah, because not only are you asking somebody from them, but like I think we're probably relatively similar, because I get the same thing as well. I get emails which have like 10 questions and they tell me their whole life story, and in a way it's like so nice, you know. I'm so grateful that people are reaching out to me, but it takes so much time to answer these questions, and maybe
you've probably answered a lot of it already.
Maybe you've already answered them, but then answer them in a blog post and send them that, so that's always a good thing. But also, like, you can't always reply, but for me it makes me feel really guilty. And you know, and that's like a real problem. So, but when I get people saying, hey, so I have a really specific question, this is it, what would you do? Then I'm like, oh, okay, cool, that will take me like 1 minute to reply to, because I know this is what she wants to find out, you know.
Yes.
So be specific and keep it short.
Or another way you could do it is actually turn it into an interview.
Yeah.
I actually love when people do this, because instead of just like emailing me a bunch of questions, they say, I'm writing a blog post, or I'm writing an article for such and such, you know, publication online, and then there's value in it for me. It was like, oh cool, I get an article published and be able to get more information out there and reach more people. So kind of think about what's in it for the person you're asking the questions to, because then those people are going to be more likely to give you a good answer.
Yeah, totally agree. Anyway, going back to the virtual assistant, I think we talked about that, but if she's still in the research phase, talk to other people who are doing it.
Yes.
And pick different people. Like, don't only talk to people who are just starting out like you. Try to talk to people who are maybe, you know, a little bit ahead of you, and in different areas. So there are totally different types of virtual assistants, like high end and more general ones. So talk to a few different people. And just get started. Just tell everybody. I meet so many people and they don't tell anyone what they're doing. Just tell everybody.
I kind of have a theory about why that is. Like, because I tell people, if they want to find their first clients, there's 3 different ways to do it. And I always say, do it in this order. First, you put up a post on Facebook or LinkedIn, like a public post where you say, hey guys, I just started a new online business. I'll be building websites, or I'll be writing articles. Do you know anybody who could use my service? Right, that's the quickest, easiest way to get the word out there. So that's number one. Number two is to actually make a list of people who know and trust you, like people in your network, and reach out to them individually and offer them the service or ask if they know anybody. And the third way is to go on sites like Upwork. Because sites like Upwork are great, but you're kind of starting, like the clients don't know you. So you use your existing network first. But whenever I tell people, like, use those 3 steps, most people go, okay, and they skip the first 2 and they go straight to Upwork. It's like they're afraid to let people who know them know what they're doing. Why is that?
They're happy with strangers knowing what they do, but they don't. It's the failure. It's fear of failing, and it's fear of people at home going, what are you doing? What is this? Like, are you crazy now? But you're not a web designer. You've got a job. Like, why are you doing that? And I think that's why it's so important to surround yourself with those people who won't ask those questions. Because maybe 4 years ago, 5 years ago, if I had written on my Facebook wall, hey, by the way, I'm organizing retreats now for girls who want to work online, everybody would have gone, what the heck? Like, why are you doing this? You don't know anything about this, or no. Yeah. But if I do it now, people will go, oh, I know this girl, and that's just because my network has expanded, and it has, and network it's changed. Like, the people who I surround myself now, that doesn't mean that I don't have the same friends anymore as from then. Of course I do. I'm still friends with them, but having these other people who are kind of in the same boat makes it very different. And
understand where you're coming from.
Yeah.
I mean, there are definitely, like, if you're coming right out of the blue and start posting this stuff on Facebook or emailing people about it, I guess there might be a kind of like, what are you doing? Or that's weird, or what about this? Like, what about your normal job? So maybe like a public Facebook post, if you're worried about that, maybe you don't want to do a public post, but you can still, I think it's still so valuable to reach out to people.
I would still do the public post, because if you can't get over yourself and take that step, then you're gonna not get that far, I find. Do you know what I mean? Because everybody's scared. I was scared shitless, seriously. I'm scared shitless every single day now with building my business. I'm terrified. I'm terrified, but you have to do it. If you don't do it, you're not gonna get anywhere. Like, you're never gonna start working freelance and book that ticket and actually go and live this life if you're too scared to share it on Facebook.
If you actually want to make it a reality, but you don't want,
and obviously don't share it with your boss if you still have a boss, like, those are the comments.
Yes, disclaimer. But I would agree. I mean, if you're kind of like ashamed or embarrassed about wanting to do this, you're probably not going to get very far, or you're probably just not surrounding yourself with the right people. Because if you have the right people that you're connected with and you post something like this, you're going to hear, go for it. Awesome. I really admire what you're doing. I can connect you with this person. And if you're not hearing that, you're probably going to need to start networking a bit better online and offline. And
maybe this should be what we finish on, because the kind of networking thing, I never wanted to network when I was still in science, because for me that was like a terrible chore, and I hated the idea of it, and I didn't know how, and I didn't know where, and how do I do this? But then I kind of realized that and I knew this, I learned that through traveling, actually. Networking just means making friends. That's what I've learned. It's not work. I know it has the word work in it, but it doesn't have to be. It's just meeting nice people and being nice to each other. So if you put it in that perspective, maybe it's less scary. So you can network online as well, like just go in Facebook groups and meet people.
And I think for people who are kind of introverted and they think of networking as, I have to go to this big event and I'll be standing there and I don't know anybody and I'll have to go and introduce myself and it'll be awkward. Like, some people are just introverted and they don't want to do that. Well, then, just reach out to people and ask, hey, do you want to go for a coffee? Like, do it on a one-to-one basis, which is often even more powerful, because instead of knowing a lot of people a little bit, you get to know some really cool people very well. And that can be way more powerful.
Totally agree.
Okay, we should wrap this up. I want to say, before we do so, can you tell people again where they can find you and connect with you online?
So you can find me on digitalnomadgirls.com. That is my website, and on there you will find the Facebook group as well. So if you type into Facebook, Digital Nomad Girls Community, that's our Facebook group. It is only for girls, so any girl watching, you're welcome to join us. Just type in, hey, I saw you on the video with Niall, Yeah, so join our group. We have 14,000 girls in there, so you'll definitely have
14,000?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
14. Yeah.
But 14000.
000. Yeah.
I didn't realize it
14,000.
was that big. That's all of them.
Yeah. So you will definitely meet somebody in there who you connect with, you know. So join us there, introduce yourself, let us know what you're doing. And if you want to sign up to the newsletter, I think we can drop the link maybe,
Yes,
or just go on my website and you will see actually we have a free toolbox for digital nomads, which has like 100 different tools that you can use for working online and staying in touch with friends. So you can download that, and that signs you up for the newsletter as well.
Excellent.
Cool.
Okay. Thanks for
Thank
taking
you
the
so
time.
much for having me. It was really
Absolutely.
fun.
And
Sorry for not drinking coffee.
It's fine. It's okay. I think I had enough for the two of us. I had like a whole big glass. But folks, thank you for watching, and I'll be doing episodes infrequently but regularly. Does that make sense? Yeah. So not on a set schedule, but every week or two. But go to Facebook, like the page Digital Nomads Having Coffee. If you have specific questions you would like me and whoever's with me to answer on the next episode, just post them there on the page, or you can email them to me and we'll make sure we get them answered for you. All right. Thanks again, folks. See you in the next one.